All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. This webinar will be recorded, so any folks that are unable to join yet can watch the recording. We'll throw that on our knowledge base. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dan Rosenrash. I'm CTO here at Viirtue. We have a pretty good set of panelists today. We have Darren Knapp, who's the Director of ITSP Sales for Poly, who's going to be showing off some cool new equipment, especially stuff to enable folks to work from home, which is obviously a big challenge in today's world. And then one of our T2 engineers, Matt Merced, will actually be doing some packet capture training and going through Wireshark and all that stuff to follow. So with all that, I'm gonna pass this on over to you, Darren, and if you need anything, just let me know.
Dan, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody coming on to the webinar today. It's some very unusual times for sure. So Darren Knapp, I'm the Director of Global ITSP Sales. I manage a team that covers about 1,000 service providers from Alaska all the way down to the tip of Argentina. And you can imagine some of our perspective of the industry is shaped by working with so many different service providers. But what we're going to talk about today is this coronavirus and how that's really shaping the future, not only what's happening today, but what's also shaping the future. So let's jump right in. Let me get my presenter going here. So this is the agenda for today. First, I want to give you a little bit of perspective. Again, with as many service providers we work with globally, we've got a bit of a unique perspective of what's going on in this market and how it's affecting the unified communication space. Then specifically kind of dive into what we're seeing with coronavirus, COVID-19, and then some of the challenges that it provides not only to the users of the technology, but also for the providers, for partners of Viirtue and the service providers that we're working with out in the field. And then what Poly does to help you overcome those things, everything from how do we help that end user experience get better, to how do we help you as a potential Poly partner navigate these waters and the tools that we've got for you. Then we'll wrap it up with a little question and answer and next steps, and then I'll hand it over to do a deep dive into packet capture, and really excited to take a look at that and some good training for you today. So brace yourselves, here goes. First of all, our perspective. If it was 4 weeks ago, I would have started out a presentation talking about these couple of slides, some Frost and Sullivan slides that talk about what a red hot market unified communications is. And it still is, but things are definitely changing right before our eyes. If I was talking to you then, I would have said, hey, double-digit growth for the foreseeable future. I would have been talking about how around 2024, 50% of businesses would have migrated to the cloud. And I would have also talked to you a little bit about the nature and makeup of the enterprise. If you look at the enterprise pre-COVID, what you would see, and these were studies that we did at Poly when we interviewed a lot of our customers, is that 48% of the enterprise already works out of the office at some point or another. They may be primarily office bound, but at some point they're taking calls on the road, they're taking calls from Starbucks, they're taking airplane flights and communicating in all different locations. So before the outbreak, we were already at about a 48% of that office environment was flex working. They were working outside of the office. That was before. Now, obviously, you're seeing the market crash, right? Everything is just abysmal. But then you're also seeing some positive stories, how a company like Zoom and several other, you could look at some other unified communication stories, how they're defying the market. And the reason is, of course, is because the virus is accelerating the demand for work from home. And those that are uniquely positioned to deliver that are the unified communications providers. So the other thing that we're seeing too is you're seeing all of these headlines, right? Could working from home become the new normal? And a lot of these articles that we're seeing are talking about not only what's happening in the present, but how is this going to change the workplace of the future? And this is something that we've got to start looking at as service providers. If you've become accustomed to working from home for a month or longer, however long this turns out to be, chances are that you're probably going to like that aspect of it. And chances are that you may be looking for somebody who's going to hire a position like that. So human resources and different corporations are having to rethink right now how they're going to answer work from home in the future. The reality is that we're going to get hit with companies making those decisions over the course of the next few months, and those trajectories that we had originally lined out are going to change. They're going to accelerate, and it's not going to be 2024 when half of all business users have moved to the cloud. It'll probably be 2022 or maybe even sooner at this point. So this presents some challenges for us in this space as we're providing these services. And here's essentially how I've broken down those challenges in talking to some of our service providers and what the feedback we've gotten. One is we've got to understand the customer and the challenges that that work from home user has. Second of all, we've got to minimize the pain of going home and working from home. So there's a lot of pre-installation and post-installation technical challenges that come with that. And then finally, as we're accelerating that ramp, we're going to have to be able to scale our operations. We're going to have to grow faster than maybe we had anticipated, and that's going to create some problems. So let's take a look at some of these. First, customer needs. They're pretty obvious. I'm just now hearing it. I've got 4 kids at home, ages 8 to 16, and my wife and a big bloodhound dog that could bark at any moment. So, and I'm doing this over a speakerphone. So there's no chance that I'm going to be able to block that background noise out for that. But there are things that we can do to block those noises out. So we've got to be able to help you not only block the noise out for the far end, but also isolate yourself so that you can focus on your work. The other thing is no matter what platform you choose, tomorrow somebody's going to invite you to a different platform for some sort of a meeting, right? You may be using, today we're using a GoToMeeting, LogMeIn solution, but tomorrow we might be using Zoom or Teams or one of these others. So we've got to be able to jump from platform to platform, and it's got to be easy to use. It's got to be intuitive, plug and play, simple. And if it's not simple, then show me the video on how to do it. Second is we've got to look at these pre and post install challenges, right? Remote troubleshooting and being able to have access to things like we'll talk about later, a packet capture. And how does Poly help you get a packet capture behind the customer's firewall? Then fast resolution, right? If you can do those types of things, you're going to resolve the issue quicker. Customer's going to be happy, and they're going to stick around because they appreciate that level of problem solving. And then finally, the third thing we'll look at is automation. How do we automate installations? If I send a phone home, I need to be able to plug it in and it just starts working. Same thing with headsets and all those things. The second thing from a scale perspective is cash flow. As our partners start to grow and we lay out a bunch of cash for 1,000 phone installation, that can really put a cash flow crunch and create some problems. So how can Poly help you with this cash flow issue? And then finally, supply chain. What we're seeing is just like if you walk into the grocery store right now, most of them are out of toilet paper, but there's a few, if you look hard enough, that still have it. I had one come in the other day where Staples had toilet paper. And so you've got to be able to diversify your supply chain to make sure that you can find the things that you need. So let's jump in. So here's how partnering with Poly helps you get over some of these obstacles. Number one, on the environmental challenges, multi-platform, and so on, here's what we do. So first of all, environmentally, we've got things like acoustic fence. It's a technology that we use to be able to eliminate that background noise. Also close conversation limiting on our headsets. And then on the multi-platform, you've got these plug and play devices. You just plug them in and it just starts working. And then finally, if it's not instantly intuitive, there's got to be these videos to go find out how to use them. So here's what we've seen, right? Even before the virus, people were working in mobile offices. That could have been Starbucks. They were going in public gathering spaces, even coffee shops now. You can find a conference table and do video conferencing from a coffee shop. I've seen that going on. And then the craziest of all is the work from home, where you've got the kids climbing all over you and interrupting your calls. And then you've got the rented spaces, the WeWorks and things like that, and how do you go in and out of those. In those, we talked to our customers, and what we found is before the virus, 64% of all users said, hey, we've got to be able to block out those background noises. They're very distracting, not only for me as I'm working, but for the far end as they're hearing all the sidebar conversations and clinking of glass cups and things like that. So here's what we're doing is I'm gonna play you a video, and I just have to do a quick setup here and make sure that you're able to hear it. So isolation, and I'm going to play a couple of examples for you on some videos. So the first one is called acoustic fence. Check this out.
Hey everyone, Darren Knapp here with Polycom, and I'm coming to you today to demonstrate the power of Polycom's acoustic fence technology. So what is acoustic fence? It's simply a way to remove unwanted sounds and noise from your phone.
Here, there's no video.
Is it not coming through, guys?
It's there now. The video changed.
Were you able to hear the audio?
Yeah, audio is good.
Okay, great. Let me get back to it. Sorry about that, guys. Let me get it to play.
Hey everyone, Darren Knapp here with Polycom, and I'm coming to you today to demonstrate the power of Polycom's acoustic fence technology. So what is acoustic fence? Simply a way to remove unwanted sounds and noise from your phone calls. We're going to demonstrate this today using a Polycom VBX 600, but acoustic fence also works in the entire VBX line of phones. So that's the 101, the 201, the 300, 400, 500, and 600 series IP phones from Polycom. So our scenario today is a zombie apocalypse. So cue noise. Imagine, if you will, I'm working from home, a zombie apocalypse breaks out. Always a possibility here in Texas. So acoustic fence is not active right now when I'm on speakerphone, but watch what happens when I take it off hook. Now acoustic fence is active because the phone is listening to my voice through this microphone on the handset or headset, and this microphone that's normally reserved for the speakerphone is listening to the ambient noise, and it's removing it. So acoustic fence off and acoustic fence back on. That's the power of acoustic fence. Remove unwanted noise and be heard clearly. Enjoy.
So again, that's acoustic fence. That's the technology that goes through our phones. But we also have a really good one for the headset. So check out this one. This is called close conversation limiting.
You know when you're trying to have a private phone call, but you're surrounded by nearby conversations? This environment makes it very difficult for the caller to hear you and to protect personal information. That's why Plantronics developed close conversation limiting, our next generation digital signal processing. DSP enables all sorts of headset advancements to make sure your voice is delivered clearly, like minimizing sounds around you. But the most difficult sound to minimize is a conversation close by, because it's like trying to separate the voices of two people talking at the same time.
Product marketing early next week.
Notify the buyer. You can refer to the terms and conditions.
This is the challenge for DSP when it tries to isolate the headset user's voice from other nearby voices. That's what makes close conversation limiting true audio artistry. Plantronics engineers expertly tuned thousands of values and thresholds, repeatedly testing in real-world applications until they achieved this. These speakers are playing recorded conversations, and this is the actual level of sound around me. Imagine trying to isolate my voice in this type of environment. Much better. The conversations are still playing on the speakers, but you can hear me clearly because I'm wearing a headset featuring close conversation limiting, only by Plantronics.
There you go, guys. Let me switch microphones real quick. And I should be back live. So that's just a couple examples of our close conversation limiting and acoustic fence. So these are the types of devices that we have that enable you to have this level of clarity when you're having your calls and video calls. We do have those on the web. If you want to look at them, you can jump on YouTube, and the first one, acoustic fence, you can find by searching Polycom Zombie. It's a real tough one to remember. So Polycom Zombie on YouTube. The other one is Plantronics Close Conversation Limiting. And you search that on YouTube, you'll find that video as well. So last on this, make it easy for customers to do business and to work from home is these online guides. And so Poly has tons of guides from our legacy Polycom and then the Plantronics side of the house as we've come together now as one company. And we also can help you co-brand some of these. So if you wanted some tutorials that are listed for your very own company, or if you're a partner of Viirtue and you want your own co-branded videos, those are things that we can help you do as well. So the next I want to look at is the actual devices. So these are the devices that you would send home with somebody. And you can see it's a pretty broad array. If you used to know us as Polycom, you probably just thought of the phone up in the top left. Maybe you thought of some of the video gear, but now with Plantronics and Polycom together as Poly, we've got all this array of headsets, we've got terminal adapters and sorts of new devices that you may have never heard of before. So let me jump through these really quickly. I want to focus on a few. One of them is our new series of VVX X50 phones. They're for SIP endpoints, and they work great on the Viirtue platform. But what we did with this is we maintained the level of quality that everybody's accustomed to with Polycom, and then we ended up bringing the price to a much more comfortable level, and we added the ability to do Wi-Fi with the OB Wi-Fi adapter. So the three color models, the 250, 350, and 450, have USB ports in the back, and you stick the OB Wi-Fi in there, and you've got 5G capable Wi-Fi right into the phone. And you can see by the prices that VVX 250 color, gig with a USB port, and you can get it for right at about $100. So it's a lot of value packed into these phones. These are great for work from home, and I'm going to show you in a little bit how you can actually run a remote packet capture right to the phone behind somebody's firewall. The next line is we're seeing a lot of demand for Teams. And if you're into Teams, we've got a great new line of phones called the CCX, full color touchscreen phones with a Teams application built in natively. This is not our application. This is the actual Teams application designed for telephony, and it's built right into the phone. So it's as simple as I've done this at home. Unbox the phone, plug in my Teams credentials, I'm up and running. It's as simple as that. Now, what's interesting too is the same line of phones, the same hardware that you see there, we're going to be enabling for Open SIP in the next 3 months. So you'll also be able to find these on Open SIP technologies as well. The key differentiator for these phones for Poly versus others, we're on the Android 9 platform. Most other Teams phones on the market right now are Android 5. And so the performance is just way better, more CPU, higher level of Android, and they're just a much better experience. We've also just recently released the VVX D230 decked wireless SIP phone. So here's a great work from home option if I want to be able to walk around and take calls from wherever. You've got about a 300-foot range from your base. The other one that people don't think about for work from home is the terminal adapter. You know, everybody pretty much has a phone, and if you have a standard analog phone at home, you could bring home one of these really inexpensive one-port FXS ATAs from Poly, and you could even put in the Wi-Fi adapter into its USB port and connect your standard analog phone to it. So even if they're not maybe ready to use a fancy SIP phone, they could still use an analog adapter, stick that next to their router, and connect it to their deck phone, and they're up and running. Then there's headsets, and we've got dozens and dozens of different wearing styles and options for headsets. The key thing to note about Poly is that we treat noise cancellation and audio quality as extremely important. That's got to be paramount to having that great experience. But the good news is regardless of how you like to wear your headset, it's very much a personal preference, we have a device for you. So if you want something in the ear, over the ear, around the ear, you want decked wireless, you want Bluetooth wireless, you want corded, we've got all those different options for you. I'm using this one right now. So with the 4 kids at home, I've got the status indicator. It's on bright red right now. So if somebody comes to knock on the door and bring me something or ask me a question, they'll see that I'm on a call. We also have speaker phones. So if you want kind of a good, better, best in speaker phones, we have the Callisto series. I'm actually talking to you right now on the Callisto 7200, phenomenal portable speakerphone that rivals the quality of the Polycom conference phones as far as the audio quality goes. This is a new hybrid sort of device. Really nothing else out on the market for it right now that's similar to this. It's the headset meets the speakerphone meets the cell phone. So this is a dedicated cell phone first device where you sit your cell phone on that little pad and it charges the cell phone wirelessly for you. It also pairs to the unit. So now you've got your active speakerphone and dialing. So your cell phone's sitting there, it's locked, but you can just walk up and start dialing a phone number and it'll automatically work. If a phone call comes in, you can hit the speaker button or put on your headset and you're going to answer the call automatically. Then when you're done with your headset, you just set it on the cradle and it charges for you. And that's the Olara 60. It also comes today with a Teams button. So if you're doing Teams and you have that built into your cell phone, you just hit the Teams button and it automatically launches the Teams application for you. And let's see here next. Also want to make sure we talk about cameras. Your camera experience can be pretty atrocious. I've got a $2,000 laptop, but the camera on it is horrible. So when I plug in one of the Poly cameras, the experience is so much better. So we've got this one's the Eagle Eye Mini, very simple to stick on top of your second monitor or even on top of your laptop. And it comes with a little mounting kit that you can put on the wall, on your laptop, on the monitor, whichever way you want to mount it, you can do that. It also works in a couple of the models of our VVX phones that are capable of doing video. Then my favorite is this one right here. This is the Eagle Eye Cube, and it actually does speaker tracking. So I tend to move around a lot when I'm on a video call. This one actually follows me around. And if 2 or 3 people come into a call simultaneously, it actually does group framing. So one person and it pans in on the one person, 2 or 3 more show up and it zooms out to catch all of those people that have come into the video call. So that's the Eagle Eye Cube USB. Then as you move up the ladder, we've got the same camera integrated with the speakers and the microphones all built into one. This is the Polycom Studio, and it's a USB device. You plug it into your laptop and you get this really high-end audio and video connected to your laptop. This is great for huddle rooms or for the executive that just wants that high-end experience. And then last up on the video side, I want to introduce you to Poly Studio X. And what we've done that's different here is we actually put the computer inside of the bar. So natively, you can run a Zoom or a Teams application, and we're adding more applications daily. So the LogMeIn, GoTo, Connect, we're putting that inside of there. So if you're using LogMeIn, if you're using Zoom, Teams, we're adding several others. Every month, we keep adding more on there. And then you've got the little touch control panel to manage it. Here's just a few options of what we see little bundles looking like. You can kind of make up your own, but a lot of times it's easy to put things in front of a customer and simplify. There may be too many options and you don't want to confuse them. So you just come up with the most basic and simple intuitive options. So here's the Blackwire 3310 corded with an Eagle Eye Mini. Maybe you want to be more wireless and have some options. You want to do a speakerphone call, plus you want your headset and you want the camera. This is kind of an upgraded version of the same. Our Voyager Focus is unbelievable on noise reduction. That Eagle Eye Cube I just showed you is definitely a higher end experience. And then that Callisto 7200 speakerphone is just as good as it gets for a speakerphone. And then as you move up, even from there, the Olara 60 maybe with your cell phone and the Polycom Studio. And then you can pair all these with your phone, right? So if you've got a Poly phone and you want to have some options bundled in with your headsets, you can do that as well through the USB port. Oop, let me jump ahead too many. So kind of wraps up the first part, which is the user experience. The second one I want to talk about is the pre-install and post-install challenges. So how do you do that remote troubleshooting and resolve things quickly? We have a tool that we give to our partners for free, and it's called PDMS, Poly Device Management Service. The SP is for service providers. And essentially what we've done is we have our phones have a secondary connection to our cloud. And though you're still managing all the provisioning, secondarily through our cloud, you're able to log in and do things like a remote packet capture, look at the live MOS scores on a call. You can actually look in the interface and see what's plugged into the USB port. So let's say a customer calls in and says, you know, call sounds terrible. I keep getting all these horrible crackling sounds and things like that. And you look in the interface and you're like, oh, I see you've got a headset plugged in. Is that what you're talking to me on now? And they tell you, yeah, how did you know that? So you ask them to pick up the handset, lo and behold, the problem goes away and you've figured out that their headset cable is bad. So they need to work on either getting a new headset or they need to call support for their headset manufacturer. So things like that, you know, speed test, trace route, ping, all from the phone, you now have visibility to the customer's LAN and can do so much more troubleshooting than you could in the past. This is a free service for our service providers. And here's what it looks like. There's your cloud managing the endpoints the way you've always done it. And what we've done is we've just added our cloud over to the side. Phone has a secondary registration. You log into our cloud, you have access to managing those endpoints. We had a testimonial the other week that came in. One of our partners said, hey, you know, I had a customer go home and all of a sudden the phone that was working at the office wasn't working at the house. So I was able to see that through your PDMS, the phone was connected to the device management, but it wasn't registering to our cloud. So they were able to go into the phone and see that the phone was sending the registers, but they weren't receiving it at their call control. So they called the ISP, found out that they had turned off SIP for some reason. They didn't enable SIP. So they turned SIP back on. The customer's up and running in about 10 to 15 minutes. If they didn't have that tool, that same call could have gone on for hours. So that's really how PDMS SP helps you as a provider make your customer experience that much better. Here are the devices that you can use that on today. So it's our generation 2 VVX phones. That'll be like the 301, 311, 401, 411, 501, 601. And then the new X50 phones and the VVX D230 DECT phone, as well as our ATA adapters and our conference phones, the Trio conference phones. The other thing that we do on support is we've got lots of tools for you. So compatibility guides on the headset, a product finder. Hey, I don't know what kind of headset I want. So you can kind of navigate through this product finder tool and it'll help you find exactly the solution you're looking for. We've got hub software that lets your client update the software of the headset. And then finally, we've got support so that the end client can call in directly to Poly support and get support for their headset, including RMAs. So if something's wrong with it, you don't even have to take the headset support call. You can send that straight over to Poly. Last up, before I hand it over, is we're going to talk about scale. So one of them is zero touch provisioning. If I send a phone home, I've got to be able to have that automatically pop up and start working. That's just got to happen. And so we have that. That's also available to our Poly partners as well today. Phone shows up, you unbox it for the first time, you plug it in, it grabs an IP address, phone's home to Poly's cloud, and whatever information you've told us to deliver, we deliver that to the phone, it'll redirect to your servers and it'll just start working. Second, we've got to be able to solve cache flow. So let's take a look at that. We have a program called Device as a Service. Now, there is a requirement, there's some financial requirements of how much you're using the program. About 100 devices per month. If you can get to that level, then you qualify for the Device as a Service program. But essentially, it's a rental to the service provider, and then you can turn around and package that into an OpEx model for your customer, either as a rental or just as a service, right? It's the cloud component as well as the hardware all wrapped up into a monthly price. And then of course you're getting billed at a monthly price. So you're not taking that CapEx hit up front. We offer advanced replacement warranties, and this works for both our headsets and our phones. So here's kind of what it looks like. Let's imagine that VVX 250, your DAS price is about $3.13 a month, plus a headset, a really nice Encore Pro USB headset that'll plug right into that phone. Total cost to you is approximately, right, about $4.12. Could you wrap that into your $24.99 a month service and sell it like hotcakes? Absolutely. This is a very attractive package for your end customer. Last up, I want to make sure that your supply chain is shored up, and want you to know that if you can't find something at one of your distributors, one of the Poly distributors, you can probably find it elsewhere. We have 12 different distribution outlets that we're using today. And through any of these, you can just go to them, and once you've set up an account with them and you're a Poly partner, you're free to buy from any of them. That's one of the ways that we fix supply chain. So kind of as a summary and a call to action, one, if you're on the call and you're a Viirtue customer of one of Viirtue's partners customers, try the new Poly devices. We've got a new DNA. The new company, as we've merged together, is Polycom and Plantronics. Definitely is a different company, much more forward thinking, a lot of more R&D going on, a lot more focus on making sure that things are price accessible and have a lot of value packed in for the dollar. And then we've got this complete UC portfolio that's everything from a basic wired USB headset all the way to high-end video systems for your conference rooms. And then best of all, it's just super easy to use. The quality is amazing, and we've got excellent support services for everything. If you're on the call and you're a Poly potential partner, you're maybe not working with us today and you're interested in partnering, what I tell you is you're going to get access to our pricing, our products, our promotions, our tools, and then you're going to be able to leverage our people and our solutions like the PDM SSP that we just talked about to better serve your clients. So I want to kind of wrap up there and move to Q&A. I don't know if any questions have come online or if there's the ability to go on live and ask questions. Dan, you got anything?
Yeah, one of the questions that came in is, how do I become a Polycom partner or a Poly partner?
Excellent. Let me jump to this slide, and you can start. You can either capture it or we'll share this information later. I've got an ITSP sales team, and so you can either call us or email us at itspsales@poly.com and just say, hey, I'm interested in being a partner. I was at the Viirtue webinar. One of the things that we do for our partners is we give you a bunch of demo stuff. We want you to be able to try this stuff out. And so we'll give you $500 or more worth of demo gear just for signing up to be a partner. And there's no volume commitment on that. That's just to be able to test out our gear and hardware and make sure that you're ready to go for success. Great question. Thank you.
That was not planned. That couldn't have timed up better, huh?
No, listen, I mean, that's the goal here, right? It's a better together. We do a great job of helping our partners get enabled, and we've got all these tools that are free. That PDM SSP is a free tool. There's no reason not to leverage something like that.
Absolutely agree. No, thank you so much, Darren. It was a pleasure. This was definitely very helpful, I'm sure, for our partners. Is there anything else you wanted to close with before I pass on over the reins to Matt?
No, I'm really interested in seeing Matt's prezo, and if there's further questions throughout, feel free to send them in either to Dan, or you can see the emails here to contact either me directly or my sales team directly. We can make this presentation available as well if you want to send this out, and look forward to working with anybody who wants to be a Poly partner. And I'm excited to see how the packet capture works, because that's a real hand in hand with the way we do our device management. You can run that PCAP remotely, and then being able to analyze it is so important. What does the PCAP tell you? So I'm excited to hear what Matt's got to show for us here. So I'll drop my content and we'll
shift gears.
Swap over.
Matt, I'm going to pass over control to you.
All right, you can hear me?
I can.
All right, guys. I'm going to build off what Darren said before I forget. It's very important now that they're putting the PCAPs in the phones, because one of the important things that you're going to run into is visibility. Let's say, for example, the IT team for your customer doesn't really work well with you, you can actually now skip them, run the packet capture on the phone, and then we always have a packet capture running on our server. And even if you do have your own firewall, now you have 3 different points of visibility. So it's definitely going to be useful if you start getting those phones. The more visibility with packet captures, the better. So we're going to start talking about what packet captures, what they're used for, and when you're going to use them. So I don't want you to leave this thinking that you have to run a packet capture for every single ticket, or even if you're having call quality issues or drop calls. It is not something you have to do right away. It's definitely more like one of the last troubleshooting steps, more 5th or 6th. But it's definitely not going to be necessary all the time. The most useful thing about PCAPs, other than showing you what the issue is, it's going to prevent the back and forth that you have either with a customer or an IT team, or maybe even with us. Maybe you're having a back and forth with me at Viirtue or one of the other techs, because it's going to show you what's really going on and then put you in a better position to solve the issue. Let's go on. All right, so one of the first ways, and this is the one we use it mostly on our server, is TCP Dump. And this is going to be used for any of your routers that are built on Unix or Linux, so your EdgeMarks, anything like that, you're going to be able to use TCP Dump. And I have a whole list of commands here. The first thing you're going to want to decide is what type of capture are you actually trying to run. Are you trying to get a full detailed analysis of every single packet? In that case, you want to use the TCP dump -w command, and that will write the file to memory so you could download it and then go into Wireshark, which we'll do later, and look at each packet. If you're just trying to see if information is being sent, you don't really necessarily care what is being sent. You just want to see if there's connection there. You don't have to use the -w command. Your next command is going to be the -i, and that is going to control which interface you're using. So if you're not sure, usually it's not like -i WAN1 or something like that. Since it's a Linux device, you're going to use ifconfig, and that will let you know, it will show you a list of all the interfaces, and then you can pick which interface you want to run the command on. That's going to be -i. Your next decision is going to be whether you're going to use source, destination, or host IP. Source is just, you're going to see what you're receiving from this IP. Destination is going to be what you're sending to this IP, and host is going to send both. So that's kind of a decision you have to make. If you want to see full visibility, then you want to use host. If you just want to see send and receive, use SRC or DST. All right, and then there's some other things you want to use here. You can see and after you've run the command up into the destination or host IP, you can also filter on ports. So if you want to do port 5060 or you want to do any of the RTP ports, you have that option to further narrow down the capture to get the details that you're looking for. So TCP dump gives you a lot of flexibility. Just because it's command line, don't be afraid of it. There's plenty of resources on Google, and also I believe this presentation will be available for download, so you can reference this at any time. All right, the SonicWALL PCAPs, I have a love-hate relationship with these. I'll show you one of these later, but you can definitely miss a lot of information. I'll skip to the next slide just to show you the packet captures that we run. One of the most important things I'm going to say with the SonicWALL packet captures is an 8 megabyte limit. So if you're trying to find an issue that is intermittent, very intermittent, there's a chance that that data can be overwritten. If it's a consistent issue, then you don't really have any problem capturing it. You should be able to capture it within the 8 megabits before the file is overwritten. But for issues that are very rare, that's going to be kind of an issue with the SonicWALL. But as you can see here, at this picture on the left, I run my packet capture on the SonicWALL very open. For the most part, you're going to be looking for drop packets that you can see over here. So don't include anything else in the packet capture, because again, you don't want to waste all the 8 megabytes of space with useless packets that you don't really need. If you're looking for drop packets, only look for drop packets. You don't also necessarily want to use interfaces all the time, because even though you're receiving it on the ingress, you might be dropping it while you're sending it out the egress interface, and then you miss the packet right there. Same thing with source IP. I would say start with just filtering for drop packets, and then if you feel the need to filter further, you can do that. But this one has worked very well for me. We have this on several of our biggest customers, and since I've been running our packet captures this way, it has helped me solve a lot of issues. There's also the display filter that you can run. You can just decide if you want to see forwarded packets, generated packets, consumed, dropped, and this shows in the actual web interface of the SonicWALL. All right. EdgeMarks, if anybody's running EdgeMarks, you're going to be using the same TCP dump commands. The only difference with the EdgeMark is you actually have to write a virtual RAM disk, which I believe EdgeMark has a guide for how to do that, but you're still going to be using the same TCP dump commands that we went over earlier. All right, and then Wireshark. I have a bunch of Wireshark filters here that I use. If you want to filter for the IP source or the IP destination, you can do that. We have UDP, TCP, SIP, all these things that you could filter on just to get exactly what you're looking for. So this is going to be useful if you're running a packet capture, say, on a customer that is using the same firewall for voice and data. You can now use Wireshark and these filters to remove all the computer traffic, all the data traffic, and only get SIP traffic or only get UDP traffic or RTP, which is the actual audio on a call. All right, and then there's also the Telephony tab, which is built into Wireshark, which I'll show you also. That just gives you a way to filter and look at each individual phone call. And then you don't really have to do any guessing work at that point. You'll be able to filter just this one phone call and look at a call trace for just this one phone call. All right, and as you can see here, we have the filter at the top that I'm running, the SIP.method equal invite. Then once you run that, you'll see that the only thing Wireshark is showing are invite packets, nothing else. And this is the telephony filter that I'll show you in more detail in a second, where you can actually, if you're a reseller of one of ours, you've probably seen this before. It looks like a call trace that we have in our portal. So it'll give you that there. The only difference is you're going to be able to also see RTP, which you don't see in our portal. It just shows the SIP messages. But in Wireshark, you now have visibility on the actual RTP streams itself. All right, so let me back out of here. All right, so this is actually, before I do that, when it comes to visibility, let's say you're running the packet capture just on your firewall. You've seen these MOS scores before if you've been in our call history tab. These are all little packet captures that we have running. So you can run the packet capture on your firewall, and then if it's a successful call, we'll be able to pull a packet capture from our end, and now you have 2 points of visibility, so we can see what we're seeing and what we're receiving and sending, and then you can do the same thing on your end. So definitely do not be afraid to ask us for packet captures if you're having an issue. It'll definitely be able to help you solve the issue. All right, so here is something I pulled from the SonicWALL. There's a bunch of calls on here. As you can see, it's a lot going on. You can see some registration attempts. You can see some SIP messages like OKs, but we're gonna jump into some of the filters that I showed you earlier. So I'm typing at the top here. I already have some SIP.method equal all caps invite. And then, like I said, you'll be able to see all the invites. So another example that this could be useful for, that happens every once in a while, they'll have someone working and they're saying, oh, my BLF key or my call part key isn't lighting up. So instead of running SIP.method invite, you can do notify. The notify message is what tells the actual light on the phone to light up because someone's on park. So you can see if your firewall is dropping that notify message, or if the phone is even sending it, receiving it. That will be able to help you in some examples. You'll be able to do the same thing for OK messages, or you can do registration attempts. Any SIP method, you can do that. All right, so let's go to RTP. Again, if you just want to look at just RTP, which is the actual audio streams that are being sent, maybe you have a one-way audio issue and you want to see which side is not sending or receiving the audio, you can use RTP filter just to see which stream is missing. All right, let's jump into the telephony tab real quick. And you go to telephony VoIP calls. And then it'll show you a list of all the phone calls, attempted phone calls or successful phone calls that are in this packet capture. So this will definitely save you some time as in, looking through the entire packet capture. So let's click on this one here. And then at the bottom, you'll see there's two options that you can use, prepare filter. So if we click that, you'll see it removed all the other packets. And then something else that's kind of useful is that you can just look at some of these filters that are up here. You're probably not really going to use them, but it's just interesting to look at how Wireshark actually generates these filters automatically. Let's pull that open again. If you want to look at the actual flow sequence, which is something kind of like we have in our portal, the call traces that we have in our call history, you can press flow sequence, and then you'll be able to see, like I showed you earlier, it's pretty much going to be the exact same thing you're going to see in the portal, just from your firewall's perspective or your phone's perspective. And it's going to show all the invites, all the ringing, trying, and all the RTP streams that are being sent back and forth. All right. Does anyone have any questions?
You did it. Yeah, you did a fantastic job, Matt. Yeah, awesome. So, and I did forget to mention at the beginning, I noticed there's not as many questions as normal to pop questions in there in the chat. But if we miss that mark, we're going to have this, again, this webinar is recorded. So we'll post this up on our KB shortly after we wrap up here today. And if you guys do have any questions, you can feel free, you can actually comment right there on the KB. And Matt, and also I'll post Darren's e-signature on there as well. So if you guys need help getting set up with the Poly Partner programs or any other additional questions for him, you folks will be able to reach out to him directly. I'll throw all of his information in there today. So yeah, Matt, if you're all set, thank you so much for your presentation today. Also, Darren, thank you so much for joining us, and thank all our partners, everybody on this call. Thank you guys so much again. We know this is a pretty trying time, so hopefully some of these work from home solutions that Darren was able to show you guys today will benefit your clients and get them moving in the right direction to kind of combat everything that's going on. But again, we as always, we're always open to feedback. We're always trying to do better. So please feel free to give myself a shout. Darren, Matt, whomever, we'd love to be of assistance. But if that's all we got for today, we'll sign off. And again, thank you guys all for joining us.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks again, Darren.
Thanks, Dan. Bye-bye.